fans, this is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Lawrence Okolie. Get this. According to Joe Galliger on Lawrence Okolie, he says, I think Okolie's doing good. He's the WBC #1, and no one wants to keep mentioning that. We heard that Dillian Whyte was their #1 for 2 years. We couldn't stop hearing it, but people need to start putting Lawrence Okolie's name on the end of their tongues when they talk about heavyweights. Those are the words of Joe Galliger, and let me counterpunch. First off, Joe's doing what he's supposed to do, right? Lawrence Okolie being the WBC in comparison to Dillian Whyte being the WBC, I think it is about preference. Personally, I think Lawrence Okolie is huge, bro. I think he's made a lot of mistakes. Lawrence has. I think, the beef with Matchroom wasn't smart, but I'm glad that he's still able to get fights. I'm glad that he's not like fighters like Michael Hunter or other fighters that, it's a hard ask to get him a fight. But the comparison between him and Dillian Whyte, people actually liked to see him fight. Whereas Lawrence Okolie's fights are like watching someone spar scared. It's not a exciting thing to watch Lawrence Okolie. I've never liked Lawrence. And I think Lawrence, that may hearing people critique him like that or criticize him like that for his overall style being boring or flat, that jab and grab, or that attack and grab style that you constantly see him do, or you see him in fights constantly clinching, because I know all clinches are not about just one person. So I'm not just trying to say Lawrence Okolie is a jab and grabber, but we've seen him do that so much that he's so tall that he doesn't have an inside game. I think his style will not promote the idea of getting him in there with somebody. You know what I mean? Because Lawrence's style is not the most entertaining, and I think the whole idea is, especially now, you have guys like Turki Al-Sheikh, and they're looking at that, and if you're Turki Al-Sheikh and you've seen Lawrence's last performance, and that shit went 12 rounds with a South African tough fighter that had no head movement, you're not going to be very impressed. You know what I mean? I looked at Turki Al-Sheikh's reaction to watching Lawrence Okolie versus Kevin Ladena. And he was just pretty much, like, what the hell is this? And we had to put up with that shit for, I think it was 10 rounds, to be fair. I think it was 10 rounds. But nonetheless, Dillian Whyte had a way better argument based on his likability, based on what he was doing in the sport, based on his opposition, based on all of that over Lawrence Okolie. Lawrence Okolie, I get it, is clever. He's the WBC, so people should mention that. But why should we mention that? Nobody wants to see Lawrence Okolie. Everybody wanted to see either Dillian Whyte in a rematch with AJ back in the day, back in 2018, 2019, and all that. People wanted him to get the shot with Deontay Wilder, which was the WBC heavyweight champion of the world. Okay, and then keep in mind, Dillian Whyte was the interim champion. Lawrence Okolie ain't. Lawrence Okolie is the #1 ranked fighter at WBC, but he is not the interim champion. The interim champion actually is Aget Caballo. So I think they should get that right. I think they're trying to put Lawrence and Dillian here where actually it's here. Okay? So, Dillian Whyte's here, just like Aget Caballo is there now with Dillian Whyte where he used to be, and Lawrence Okolie is here. Okay? So let's keep it that way instead of oh, no, he's here with Dillian, and everybody pissed and moaned about Dillian not getting his opportunity to fight Deontay Wilder, which was up here because he was the champion. He was the full champion or whatever, the world WBC heavyweight champion, whereas Dillian Whyte was right here, being the interim WBC heavyweight champion, paying that 3% to the WBC. Okay, so I think that's what that was about. And they're trying to make Lawrence Okolie this name or this victim that needs justice because people talked about this British fighter. So why are they not talking about this British fighter? It is not comparable, I'm sorry, with competition or with ranking because he's the number one. He's not the WBC interim. Now, if he did beat Aget Caballero, that would be a different story because Aget Caballero is the interim fighter and then he has a name on his record that no one else has. So if he beat Aget Caballero, that would be very impressive. And then I think people should start looking at him. But then that still doesn't guarantee you to get a title shot. Why? Because Aget Caballero ain't got a title shot. So what makes you think that you would? And Aget Caballero is stopping motherfuckers. You ain't. But you guys tell me what you think of Lawrence Okolie that should be made or known as the number one and wants that recognition, wants that respect, wants those stripes, wants that juice. You guys, of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch.